Welcome to Whispers After Midnight. For the best experience, put on your headphones, turn down the lights, and let the whispers begin. The smiling thing that wears my mother's face. Elias hadn't been back to his mother's house since the funeral. The lawyers had called it a state closure. He called it unfinished business. The small house sat at the end of a narrow road, its windows half covered in dust, its garden strangled by weeds. The porch light flickered when he stepped up to it, though no one had paid the power bill for months. He unlocked the door. The air that greeted him was stale, as if the walls themselves had been holding their breath. Every photograph on the hallway wall still hung perfectly straight, except one. His mother's portrait, the one she loved most, was tilted slightly to the side. Her smile looked different, somehow wider, strained. Elias reached up to fix it, but stopped midway. For a second, he swore her eyes followed him. He shook off the thought and kept walking. The old house creaked in familiar protest under his steps. He could almost hear her voice calling from the kitchen, "Wipe your feet, Eli." But there was no scent of her cooking now, no warmth of her humming. Only silence, thick and heavy, pressing against his chest. As he explored, he found her bedroom just as she'd left it. The bed was neatly made, the mirror draped with a black cloth, an old superstition she used to talk about after someone died. He reached to pull the cloth away, but hesitated. Something inside him said not to. That night, Elias couldn't sleep. The clock on the wall ticked irregularly, sometimes pausing as if it had forgotten what time was. At 2:46 a.m., a sound came from the hallway, a faint humming, his mother's lullaby. He sat up sharply, heart pounding. The sound came closer, step by step, the boards creaking softly beneath invisible feet. Then came a whisper, "Eli." He froze. That voice, it was her voice. Soft, tender, familiar, but wrong. The cadence was off, like a recording slightly warped. The doorknob began to turn. Slowly, silently. Elias backed toward the corner of the room, his breath shallow. The door opened, and she stood there, or something that wore her shape. It looked like her, down to the pale blue robe, the silver cross on her neck, the faint mole beneath her lip. But the smile, too wide, too deliberate, stretched almost to the edges of her cheeks. The eyes gleamed like wet glass. "Mom," Elias whispered. The thing tilted its head. "You came back," it said. The tone was gentle, loving even, but beneath it was a hollow echo, as though two voices spoke at once. "You missed me." He nodded slowly. I did." She stepped closer. Her movements were almost fluid, like a puppet being guided by invisible strings. "I missed you too, Eli." Her grin didn't fade. "Come here." Every instinct screamed no, but his legs felt weak. He managed a single step back before she tilted her head again, the smile stretching further. "You don't want to hug your mother." Her voice was lower now, resonant, vibrating through the air. The room dimmed as though the light itself was being swallowed. "I buried you," Elias whispered. "You're not her." The thing paused. For a moment, its expression shifted, not anger, but confusion, almost sadness. Then the smile returned, wider than before. The lips cracked slightly, revealing too many teeth beneath. "Don't say that, Eli. You'll make me sad." He stumbled backward and knocked over a lamp. The crash shattered the silence. The thing flinched, not from fear, but annoyance. The shadows around it thickened, and then, just as suddenly, it vanished. The air cleared. The lights flickered back on. Elias gasped, sinking to his knees. It was gone. For the next few days, he tried to convince himself he had imagined it. Grief, exhaustion, isolation, all perfect ingredients for hallucinations. He fixed the place up, cleaned, and sorted her old boxes. But at night, the humming always returned. Always at 2:46. Always moving closer. By the third night, he couldn't take it anymore. He uncovered the mirror. At first, nothing. Just his reflection, pale and tired. Then, slowly, the glass began to ripple. Behind his reflection stood his mother. She smiled that impossible smile and raised her hand in a slow wave. Elias stumbled back, but his reflection did not. It stayed there, smiling. "Eli," her voice came again. "I'm here now." He turned, but the room was empty. Only the reflection moved. Then, from within the glass, she whispered, "Let me out." Cracks spread across the mirror like veins. Her face pressed against the glass from the other side, distorting horribly. Elias screamed and threw a blanket over it. When he pulled the blanket away seconds later, the mirror was intact again, his reflection normal. But that night, he woke to find the black cloth back over the mirror, even though he hadn't replaced it. He left the house the next morning. Weeks later, a neighbor called to report lights flickering inside the supposedly empty house. Police entered to find no one there, only a mirror in the bedroom, uncovered. On its surface was a faint handprint, and in the reflection, a smiling figure standing just behind the doorway. If you thought that tale was unsettling, wait till you hear the next one. It will leave you scared to the bones. Don't answer when it calls your name. The town of Wrenfield was small, quiet, and comfortably forgettable. The kind of place where everyone knew everyone or thought they did. But in every house, at some point, each person had heard it. A voice, faint and familiar, calling their name from the darkness. And every child was taught the same rule. Don't answer when it calls your name. The rule had been passed down for generations. Parents didn't explain why. They only said it was important, in the same tone they used for locking doors or not playing near the old quarry. And no one ever questioned it out loud. Not after what happened to the Marnell boy. It started on a cold October night when Emma's husband, David, was working the night shift at the factory. The house was too quiet. Wind whistled through the trees, and the old floorboards creaked as though remembering footsteps. Her daughter, Lily, had gone to bed hours ago. Emma was about to turn in herself when she heard it soft, like a whisper just behind her ear. "Emma." She froze. It was David's voice, the same low timbre, the same warmth. But it came from the hallway, dark, unlit, and still. She blinked, trying to steady her breath. He was supposed to be at work, miles away. She told herself she must be tired, maybe drifting toward sleep. But then it came again, a little closer. "Emma." She stood, heart drumming. "David," she whispered back before she could stop herself. Her voice cracked the silence like glass. And from the hallway, something moved. Footsteps too slow, too deliberate. Emma's hand shook as she reached for her phone, but the screen stayed black, unresponsive. The air felt heavy, thick, as though the whole house was holding its breath. A figure appeared at the end of the hall. Its outline was familiar, David's height, his build, but its movements were wrong, too fluid, too quiet. It smiled, but the smile was tainted with evil. "Emma," it said again, though the mouth didn't move. She ran. By morning, she was gone. The police said she must have fled. No signs of struggle, no blood, no footprints. Only the faint smell of iron lingering in the air. Lily was found hiding in the closet, shivering and repeating over and over, "It was Daddy." In Wrenfield, people no longer spoke about Emma, but they all knew the story. And when the nights grew long, when the wind howled through the cracks in the windows, every parent whispered the same warning to their children before bed. If you hear your name called, don't answer. For 15 years, no one did, until Caleb Harper moved into the old Marnell house. Caleb didn't believe in small-town superstitions. He laughed when the neighbor, Mrs. Dyer, warned him on moving day. He'd come from the city, a place where ghosts were metaphors, and fear was a thing you scrolled past online. He unpacked his boxes, set up his home office, and forgot all about the warning. The first time it called his name, it was just past midnight. "Caleb." He jolted awake. The sound was faint, but unmistakable, his late mother's voice. He sat upright, sweat cooling on his neck. He told himself it was a dream, but then he heard it again. Softer, closer. "Caleb." This time, it came from the hallway. He turned on the bedside lamp. The light flickered once, then steadied. His mother had been gone for 5 years. He remembered her voice vividly, gentle, melodic, always humming under her breath when she cooked breakfast. And this voice, it was her, exactly her. "Caleb." He almost said what, but something deep in his gut stopped him. Something primal, like a whisper of instinct, passed down from every terrified parent in Wrenfield. Instead, he stayed perfectly still, listening. The voice moved down the hall, slow, dragging footsteps accompanying it. Something brushed against the wall, a scrape, like nails tracing the wallpaper. Caleb reached for his phone, but the screen was black. Dead. He waited, not daring to breathe. And And the voice said, lower this time, please answer me, Caleb, I'm cold. He clamped a hand over his mouth to stop the sound that tried to escape. The voice grew distorted, too low, too stretched out to be human. When the sun rose, Caleb was still sitting upright, lamp buzzing weakly beside him. He hadn't slept. He didn't move until the light flooded the room. The next night, it came again. Caleb, he ignored it. He even covered his ears, but somehow he still heard it inside his head now. Louder, angry. By the third night, it began using other voices. His father, his childhood friend, his own voice. That's when he started keeping notes. He wrote down every time it called, every word it said. He stopped answering calls, stopped leaving the house. The neighbors whispered that the new man in the Marnell house was going mad. They didn't know how right they were. On the 7th night, he heard it whisper through the keyhole, "You've already answered." And then the door opened. No one saw Caleb again. The house stayed empty for months, until a young couple, Nina and Patrick, bought it for a bargain price. They said they'd heard the stories, but didn't believe them. Just superstitions, they said. They laughed about it right up until their second night. Nina woke to a sound. It wasn't a whisper this time, but a soft tapping. 3 knocks on the bedroom door, then silence. She nudged Patrick awake, but he didn't stir. The knocking came again, slower this time, deliberate. She thought she heard a muffled voice through the door. "Nina." She frowned. It was Patrick's voice, but Patrick was right beside her, breathing steadily. The voice came again, closer now, like it was leaning against the door. "Nina, please, let me in." She sat up, eyes wide, her body rigid. The handle began to turn, ever so slowly. And from under the door, she saw a shadow fall across the floor, not the shape of feet, but something long and jointed, like a spider's limb. "Nina." She pressed her hands over her ears, shaking her head. "Stop," she whispered. The voice grew distorted, breaking apart like static. "Don't ignore me." Then from the bed beside her, Patrick's voice, real this time, half asleep, confused. "Who are you talking to?" The handle stopped turning. The shadow withdrew. The next morning, the door was open. Patrick swore he hadn't moved. But when they checked the hallway, the floor was marked with long, thin scratches leading toward the attic stairs. That night, Nina heard it again. But this time, it called Patrick's name. He answered. Wrenfield is quiet again. The Marnell house stands empty, windows dark, door always unlocked. Children dare each other to step onto the porch at night, but none of them stay long. They say, if you listen closely, you can hear it whisper through the cracks in the wood, soft and patient, calling, and everyone in town still knows the rule, whispered from parent to child, like a prayer older than memory. Don't answer when it calls your name. Subscribe and stay tuned.